Tell me, do you still hate the House of Lancaster or the House of York?
Hey guys, welcome to Denied Shifts. It's episode 9. We're back for 2025. I got Chris right here to my left.
Oh, you got it right. All right.
I got it right. That's how we're starting the year off right. That's
Dang.
right. My name's Ripple, also known as Craig Francis, or actually Craig Francis, also known as Ripple. I got that wrong.
And I'm Chris, also known as Tropical Punch. I'm going to introduce myself this year. New year, new me.
There we go. The
Yay.
producer side of him is coming back out. He's also an iRacing driver for Amplify, which, by the way, we just finished our Daytona 24 hour like last weekend. So yeah, it's been a week.
Was it
now.
last weekend?
No,
last weekend. No, 2 weekends ago.
Before last weekend was the real Daytona 24.
Yeah, so 2 weeks.
But yeah, so hey, how was your winter break? We haven't been back in a month with our podcast.
Honestly, I got a lot more racing time in. So that's
definitely.
But I'm not going to say the quality of how that racing time. Good and bad. Third win in iRacing happened last week. So that would be my first win of the new year. So hopefully we can get some more wins this year, more than one. That'd be nice. Otherwise, it was all right. Pretty quiet. It was nice just to kind of mellow out after the holidays.
Oh, definitely.
And then it went back. Well, I mean, to be fair, the mellowing was short because then it was Daytona 24 prep.
Yeah, we went the Roar the first week of January, and then
the Roar was a mess.
And then we went into our virtual Daytona 24 the week after.
Which the virtual Daytona 24 was I think it was much better than the Roar, just in terms of driver quality.
Yeah,
I thought the Roar this past year was actually kind of rough. It just felt a lot more rough, where there was a lot more drivers just kind of willy-nilly around the track. They weren't really in their positions for the faster classes. They weren't paying any mind to the faster classes, which caused a lot of incidences in general.
Yep.
So,
which we'll get to. We're getting ahead of ourselves here. Yeah, and my winter break was good. It was relaxing. Spent time with family. Like Chris, I think I spent a lot of time on iRacing, just working on my craft, trying to prep for Daytona, prep for this year. There's been a lot of movement with our esports, not just iRacing, with our esports program in general, like with Overwatch and things like that. Overwatch started like first week of January. We were like, we're back in this with competitions and things like that. But hey, top headlines to start off 2025. You know, we had the real Rolex 2024, Daytona 24. Let me get that out right. Just finished this last weekend. Number 7, Porsche Penske GTP wins overall, which some of us, as you could see, were happy about and rooting for. I was really
They were my backup. I was hoping
BMW would have pulled it. I was hoping BMW pull it off, but we'll talk about that later, why that didn't happen.
I was hoping Cadillac would do better.
LMP2 class winner was changed due to a technical infraction penalty. So the number 8, which was issued against number 8, their skid block was basically or worn out too far past the regulations. So number 22, right. United Autosport USA wins LMP2 class overall. Yuki Tsunoda was named backup driver for Red Bull, so he may get his chance at Red Bull, while he still gets to keep his seat at VCARB at the same time. So if Max Verstappen decides to say, "Hey, I'm leaving Red Bull early," or Liam Lawson's out for an injury or something.
Yeah, no, Liam Lawson will. I think if Liam Lawson fumbles his chance, Yuki's in, Lawson's back at VCARB.
See, Kansas City Chiefs and Philadelphia Eagles will be facing each other in Super Bowl next week. Mr. Philly over there is prepping his house for mayhem in the city, maybe.
Nowhere near the city, thank goodness. They can't get me.
They might burn down the city if they win the Super Bowl.
Oh, they will.
NASCAR returns this weekend with the Clash at Bowman Gray Stadium for the first time since 1971. The Cup cars are returning. It is their preseason exhibition race before Daytona 500. Always held the week before Super Bowl. Sure to be fun. Believe it's on Fox this year, or FS1. I should have double checked. And the last headline I got is community and teams fans, or teams and drivers, up in arms because F1 issues new conduct regulations to all team personnel and drivers. Drivers have been accused of being too potty mouthed for children.
It's race. I don't understand where. Here's my thing. I saw these and too potty mouth for children. All right, I get it. Kids like race cars. When I was a little kid, I loved cars. I loved race cars. I loved fast things. Ooh, it was so cool. But this is racing. You're putting a human being in literally nothing but a carbon fiber shell with an engine right behind their head going over 200 miles an hour. I think if anything happens, you can die, essentially. So if you curse, I don't see the problem. You're literally risking your life for entertainment. It doesn't matter if it's a kid, grandmother, or a parent watching. You're driving a bomb, essentially.
And they're being, they could be, fined for saying it even in their private radio chat.
Which in my opinion is BS. The private radio chat should be off limits to any kind of scrutiny. It's a personal radio chat.
Special headline, as well as OWCS, or Overwatch Championship Series, starts this weekend. And guess what? We have a surprise. Amplify qualified for stage 1 for OWCS. We have made the top leagues for the first time in the history of Amplify, which that is a very big deal for us here. We also have a special guest, Jeff, also known as Bullskunk, who will be joining us later in the show to talk about it. Bullskunk had the luxury, not just the luxury, I mean, it's an honor for us that he casted our match and was the one that called it, us qualifying for OWCS Stage 1. So I'm honored, and I'm excited to have Bullskunk here to talk about it more. First topic of the day, though, 24 Hours Daytona, virtual and real. Our quick little recap for you guys. As Chris said, it was a lot of fun. We had our first 4-driver lineup for Amplify during Daytona 24. I mean, you guys know last year we ran 3 drivers. 4 was nice. I think we got a lot more breaks in a sense. I think we could have been more strategic with it. But
the breaks were longer, where I felt like when I was driving, one of my cousin who was one of the drivers, I felt like he actually went up to our guest room and slept. And I was like, will he even remember to come back downstairs and get back on his rig? But yeah, I thought
I got to take a nap too.
I actually did take a power nap, so it was actually kind of nice to have all the drivers and have like that long break in between for you to rest. But for me, I'm just so excited that I couldn't sleep a lot, so I was like just watching like 90% of the time, and maybe took like an hour nap.
Yeah, I was trying to stay up the whole time, but I was like after that 4-hour stint I did, I had to like take a nap because I was like, no, I'm not going to make it through the rest of the race and call the strategies correctly.
I could have driven longer. Looking back at the lap count, I could have stayed. I could have driven longer. Yeah, I could have done like another portion.
But I mean,
overall,
it was fun. It was more difficult this year because we actually had GTPs and we were in a higher elo this year for our race. So
it was harder, but
it was still fun.
It's always fun. I love doing it. It's like a virtual racing slumber party. It's awesome.
Yep. Which also hyped us up for the real Daytona 24, which had plenty of drama throughout it. As I mentioned earlier, BMW literally was in the lead the start of the Daytona 24, and the first pit stop slides into their pit wall and basically botches it. From then on, I don't think the race was the same for BMW GTP, but Penske comes up on top with the Porsche. Cadillac had their struggles. The first car out was a GTP, and it was the Lamborghini. Unfortunately, again, in their second year, the curses are hitting Lamborghini. But
it's also because Lamborghini pulled out of WEC.
Well, I mean, they did it so they could fund their program correctly. Because remember, WEC needed 2 cars. They required 2 cars instead of allowing them to just have 1. But I mean, there was a lot of worried up and down the garage because of hybrid reliability. So I think there was talks leading up to the race like from journalists and fans and whatnot, that we may just see an LMP2 win overall because GTPs are going to be struggling because of reliability. They'll be coming in and out of the garage. Other than that, I mean, I think the biggest drama was like towards the end of the race between Corvette and BMW, which unfortunately I'm wearing the Paul Miller BMW shirt that caused the issue in the first place against the Corvette.
Illegal blocking against the Corvette. Oh, and he also damaged the rear end of the Corvette with the illegal blocking. I think the guy who was the teammate he was allowing to pass the Corvette was on the Corvette's left into I think turn 4. No,
International Horseshoe.
International Horseshoe made contact with the Corvette, but the Corvette had a damaged rear end. Oh man.
And then we see Tommy Milner on the front stretch open his window at 180 miles per hour, sticks his hand out and flips the BMW the bird.
Right before the months.
And they've made it a shirt now. So, I mean, this is going to be the thing. The rivalry between Corvette and BMW, Germany versus USA, even though like USA has Ford, who won the GTD Pro overall class lead to carry the American banner for them, which I said this before our podcast started. We were talking about this. The Fords don't look bad. During that entire 24-hour race, I thought it was going to be a 3 manufacturer race. It's between Corvette, BMW, and Ford this year. I don't know where Porsche is. I don't know why Porsche seems like they're a little behind in their GT3 program this year. Maybe it's the BOP that just hurt them at Daytona, and we'll see what changes at Sebring. But it was definitely between those 3 manufacturers for the overall or the class win there.
I'm not a fan of Ford, so good for them. They dragged that boat across the finish line in first place. Not a fan of Ford or the Mustang. Ugh, surrounded by it every day at work. We're good. But
the one good thing is across the GT3 classes, the 2 GT3 classes, it was Americans manufacturers that won it because AWA Corvette won the GT3 or GTD class, Pro-Am class.
I did see that. So it is cool to see the American manufacturers basically taking top slots. That
America's
is good to
back.
See.
We're back into sports car racing.
Especially in turn 1 when the Corvette spun the BMW in turn 1 is revenge. Illegal blocking. Yes.
Oh man, it was wild. I was watching social media go crazy as this was happening too. And I'm watching the race at church and I'm like, oh my gosh, no.
I tuned back in I tuned back in at the right moment and I saw that happen. I was like, oh, revenge.
Oh, dude, IMSA is going to be so amazing this year. I love what's happening in IMSA and just the overall like health of sports car racing in North America, especially.
It's very energetic this year. Watching parts of the Daytona 24, then catching up with all the highlights because I missed a lot of it. It seems like a lot of teams are much more energized, and it seems like now there's rivalries starting to brew really early. So it's going to make for a very interesting 2025 season. It's going to be very interesting.
There's a lot more excitement going into this year, especially between the IMSA, ACO, FIA partnerships and such. And I think this helps build up for WEC. This helps them. This helps build up the excitement towards WEC and what we'll see. Because WEC, like we were talking about last year in our last episode, it's been kind of boring in a sense and kind of like started to drop off. But I think that excitement's back with IMSA and the rivalries they're building. And the amount of invites I'm hearing that are coming out of IMSA to the Le Mans 24. So
I think WEC announced that they had I think they broke 1 million fans. So they made like an announcement during our break on their socials that they broke like 1 million fans worldwide or something for World Endurance Championship, which I thought was really cool. But I also feel like this is also a lot of people are coming from Formula One. A lot of people are starting to come over from Formula One with all the no cussing nonsense going on from the FIA and the F1 people over there. So now they're coming over here. So it just feels like a lot of the racing fans are now tapping into sports car racing, and it's actually creating a new, a refreshing hype. There's a new breath of fresh air, like hype's coming into racing.
And I mean, not only just like the engineers that are working in Formula One, like I mentioned earlier, there's a tweet that went out as well by an engineer that said like the cost cap in Formula One is hurting them because full-time engineers in Formula One are making less money than part-time pit crew members in WEC. And so you are seeing that the more people going towards like sports car racing, drivers coming from Formula One, Kevin Magnussen, for instance.
That was cool to see him at Daytona 24. That was cool.
I loved seeing him come back to sports car racing and be a full-time driver for BMW's GTP program.
That was cool to see him there.
Which we will see him at Le Mans. This means it sounds like
yes,
because
we'll probably see him.
Oh yeah, we talked about this the 2 episodes ago. How BMW announced that their drivers are full-time drivers in WEC and IMSA at the same time. Yep. So, this is going to be a fun year for sports car. I'm more hyped about sports car racing than I am about any other motorsports this year. So
yeah, I'm like less excited about going into the Formula One season this year, and I'm more invested and more excited to follow WEC again and IMSA through 2025 versus watching Formula One because Le Mans this year we will see Checo Perez sporting in the Ferrari hypercar. So we're gonna have Magnussen and Checo racing each other at Le Mans.
This is gonna be fun. It's definitely gonna be a fun. The 2 biggest endurance races, Daytona 24 and Le Mans. The only sucky part is they're 6 months apart from each other, but that's also nice because 6 months after Daytona is Le Mans. 6 months after Le Mans, we're back at Daytona, guys. So it's gonna be good.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Math is mathing. Hold on. Sebring 12 hours is still a good one too. And then the Petit Le Mans in October.
I wish they would bring back the Super Weekend where WEC was there with IMSA at the same time for Sebring, but schedule never works out with WEC anymore.
That and also the grid's kind of packed with LMP2 still being allowed to race for IMSA. The grid is a lot larger than WEC's grid.
No. They ran 2 different days. WEC ran a sprint at Sebring the day before the 12-hour IMSA race. So it was a lot of fun. That weekend was fun to watch, and you had a lot of racing happening.
I'm excited. I'm actually going to be able to catch the Petit Le Mans this year because it doesn't fall on my 1-year wedding anniversary in October. It actually is like the weekend before, so I actually get to enjoy some Petit Le Mans.
Nice.
But yeah, no, my favorite races for the year is Daytona, Sebring, Le Mans, and Petit Le Mans. Those are my 4 big ones that I must watch.
I mean, I do got Daytona 500 to look forward to with NASCAR, but
when's that? Is that
the week after Super Bowl? So
all right, so it's in a couple weeks. All right, cool.
3 weeks? Is that considered 3 weeks? 2 weeks? I don't know, something like that.
2 weeks from this weekend. So it'd be 2 weeks from this Saturday, essentially.
Sunday.
Yeah. So 3 weekends. So 3 weeks. Yeah, 3 weekends.
Yep. But yeah, we got that to look forward to. And then we got Overwatch, which we are gonna talk about.
Take it away.
Around this corner. Welcome back, guys. And today I have Jeff Fendley, also known as Bullskunk, basically the granddad of Tier 3 and Overwatch in general. You've done Tier 2 as well, so.
I have. I got 4 days. I got 4 days to cast contenders. It was an amazing 4 days. Let me tell you.
You made it. You made it to Tier 2 either way.
Hey, I'm proud. Damn right.
Big caster in Overwatch, very popular face in it. And like I mentioned earlier, we had the honor of him casting our match against Supernova. At the same time, I'm actually going to break it here because we haven't announced on social media. Actually, it might happen between when this episode goes out, from our recording when the episode goes out. Bullskunk as a content creator for us during OWCS Stage 1 as well, which we're really excited about to have you.
I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
My family, like I'm super excited. It's a hell of a story. I can't wait to delve into it. I can't wait to tell it, best I can at least.
And I like how you have the logos in the background.
Oh yeah,
in your shot too.
you betcha. Gotta rep. I'm proud.
Cafeteria
I'm proud
Bullskunk.
for y'all. Yes, this is cafe. That is literally Cafe Bullskunk. Yeah.
So Bullskunk. Oh, I'm gonna say Jeff. Jeff, how did you get into casting in Overwatch, especially? Because from what I've seen on Wikipedia, it goes back to 2020. But do you have a prior history than that?
I mean, a little bit. About halfway into 2019. And there's stuff that's not on Wikipedia. Wikipedia. I mean, it's pretty extensive what I have on there, and it's still missing a lot.
Yeah.
But 2019, I basically, well, I mean, shoot, honestly, if you want to get to the heart of this thing, you got to go back to 2018. All right. And we're talking about a server, very well known server at the time called Elo Hell.
Oh, yeah. We all know that
Jane's
one.
server. Yeah. So Jane, huge streamer at the time. Jane was like the predecessor to Flats. Like where Flats is now, I don't think Flats would be what Flats is today without Jane. Honestly, same thing with Emong. Emong had been doing it longer. Emong had been there since day one, but that's anyway. Like the old, Emong's now Yep Rock is like one of his big things, right? Anytime you see a Signal Rock, it's Yep Rock. That was a Jane thing. Jane is the one that came up with that. Said it to Emong during when they were streaming together. But anyway, so part of Elo Hell, they ran pugs every weekend. The huge, awesome pugs. Like there was a lot of people in this community at the time, and we're talking 2018, right? So Overwatch was super hot. We were still riding the hype of launch hype, and it was still pulling those kind of numbers. Well, I was a lowly gold player during these pugs, and so which ran all the way up to GM. So there was plenty of times where I didn't get picked. Right? I just it was a captain system, and there were times I didn't get picked. So me and another friend who I played a lot of pugs with at the time would often just go into our own channel and just shoutcast the games just for fun. Like,
cool.
For no other reason. I mean, kind of hoping nobody would hear us, like it was, it was just having fun with it. I mean, it was first year Overwatch League. It was just kind of writing some of that and having a little fun with that. 2019, let's fast forward a bit. I didn't have a PC at the time. I'm playing on Xbox. I'm doing all of this on Xbox. Didn't even have a computer to work with.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I did all this on Xbox. 2019, April 2019 is the Dallas homestand. I'm born and raised in Dallas, Texas. I am a Fuel fan since before they could have announced whatever roster I was going to be a Fuel fan. I was like, we have an Overwatch team like representing Dallas, which my family's been here for a long time. Like this means something, right? So to have an Overwatch team here, I was on board immediately. And so the first homestand being here, and the first home game in esports history was that 2019 homestand. It was insane. It was insane. One of the most amazing weekends of my life. And so I've been in service industry for some time at this point. I've bartended since 2012. And just one of my regulars happened to be the main PR guy for the Dallas Fuel.
Oh, wow.
And knew nothing about esports, right? Like, was just a PR guy. He worked for a PR firm. Like the Dallas Fuel was just another one of his clients. It wasn't anything to him. He knew nothing about esports. I had a custom made bar key it was a Dallas Fuel bar key. So my bar key was a black bar key with a big Dallas Fuel logo on it. And so while I'm working, he catches my bar key and was like, wait a minute. And so we get the talk going. So he's obviously working at the homestand event and he's literally the head of their PR. So he brings me along. So I get a press pass for this. So through this insane coincidence, I get a press pass to the very first home event. And this just leads to making all kinds of connections. Nothing really long-standing, but it really just planted a seed of like, these are my people. Like this is where I belong.
I wish I knew that you were there at the time. I was there for the Dallas one too.
No
I traveled to Texas to visit. Well, at the time I was dating someone and she lived in Texas as well. Sure. And we went to that homestand.
That's amazing. It was so good. It was so good.
The environment was something else.
Aside from my buddy I went with, but I didn't have we basically separated. Like he would have to go work throughout the whole event. So I would just go wander and stuff. And I'd meet up with him and be like, hey, you doing all right? And kind of a lot of it was like afterwards, like one of the first person I met was Monte Cristo.
Oh wow, yeah.
I mean, just right out of the gate, he was super nice. Because we were staying, because of the press passes, we were staying in the same hotel as everybody. And you got to think everybody's at this event. Nate Nanzer's at this event.
Yep.
Right? I mean, like, the entire Overwatch community is here, period. It was, I mean, I want to say Jeff Kaplan was at, like, everybody was at that event.
There was people even from not that weren't there for not for the teams that were playing. They were like outside teams there. I remember LA Gladiators fan base, known as the Frontline. They were there. A lot of them were at the Dallas homestand, but Gladiators weren't playing in that either. So
yeah, they were just there because it was the biggest event of the year. I mean, essentially, aside from the finals, that was the biggest event of the year. And it really did plant a seed. It just planted a seed. And I talked to Hexagrams, who ends up being my first VOD review as a caster at that event, and was like, how do I get involved in this? You know, so like, I've already been just kind of casting these fun pug things. Like, what? And he's like, you're already doing it. Like, just keep doing it. Keep doing that. Keep getting involved. Keep showing up for those pugs. Keep trying to practice that. Try to get involved with tournaments and stuff. And that took hold. And I mean, directly not 2 weeks after that, I was working. I've been trying to get out of service industry. I was working a freelance graphics gig. My degree is in animation. My whole background's in film and animation.
Oh, that's so cool.
I was a professional animator for almost 4 years.
That's sick.
It was brutal. But yes, it was. There were parts of it that were extremely sick. There was also parts of it that were just 16-hour days to endless. I mean,
that's what I've heard. It's hell, but
deadlines
it's so cool.
every 2 weeks. That if you don't get it down, it's the end of the world. You know, and I mean, and then every 2 weeks, and you know. So anyway, all that to say, I was trying to use some of that background to just pick some freelance gigs. I helped this dude land this massive 6-figure project for his landscaping company. As a bonus, he bought me a laptop. This laptop would carry me until a year and a half ago.
Wow.
So it wasn't until summer of 23 that I finally got like a good rig. Like, I actually got a PC and got a rig. So the majority of what you're seeing, including my contenders casting and everything on my Wikipedia bio, was all done from a laptop.
Laptop gang.
Yeah. I mean, I got a second monitor. It was a good laptop, and I got a second monitor I could plug into it and work from that more and stuff. But that was the turning point. And it was, I mean, not 2 weeks after that April homestand. And so I just go full bore. Now I've got something I can work with and just go full bore into it. End up doing a bunch of grassroots community tournaments. A friend that was part of that pugs knew somebody that was part of these tournaments, and it just networked that way. That was actually Munching Carrot, who's still around, who runs Ignition. I mean, who's been a part of the scene for a long time. He's got more on the console side, a little bit more on the fringe side, but that was Munching Carrot got me my very first casting gig, and it was that just a friend from pugs was like, this guy's actually kind of got a cool voice for this. You should give him a shot. Like, he's not bad. And then so that was my first just doing grassroots tourneys, and that led to 2020. So I did that for all of 2019. In 2020, did CGL. So all the Face It stuff you know me for now, and the 164 Face It League VODs that are currently up on my YouTube, if you go underneath those, yes, I did 164 matches in 5 months. And that's matches that I produced, observed, and cast that I was in lobby for. That's not counting co-streams. That's not matches where there was an official broadcast and I was like, yeah, I streamed that. And I was just sitting back laughing. No, I mean matches I was in lobby for. Anyway, if you go underneath all of that, there is almost an equal number of matches from CGL's 2020 season. That was how I started. I did the same exact shit where I was a one-man band, made all my own graphics, self-produced, obs, cast. I had friends that would bring in to cast with me for a lot of those, where I've solo casted for Face It League most of the time. Yep. I had friends that have become, I mean, lifelong friends as far as my Overwatch career is concerned. That I cast with at that time. One of which was Chef Billy, who I would end up casting hundreds and hundreds of matches with since. Anyway, so that led to getting noticed by Elo Hell, who had Contenders Trials for the 2020 season. And that's where my Wikipedia page starts. And Open Division and all that stemmed from that. And then it just blossomed. But it was that inaugural season for me working for CGL, that it was season 7 of CGL, but it was this same kind of workload that I put in for Face It. That was my bread and butter. And that's why kind of coming full circle and coming back and doing this again for for grassroots Overwatch and just kind of working from the ground up and kind of getting out of the it's going to sound bad, but getting out of the rat race of into the caster cycle of like trying to fight, you're 100 people fighting for the 10 gigs that are out there. And it gets a little vicious and you're kind of poised to turn on each other a bit and poised to not lift each other up and not let the ladder down like you're supposed to.
Dark side of the entertainment industry.
Yeah. And so some of that happened to me, and damn it, I will not do that to anybody else. But I kind of had to fight, kind of build my own path. And it ended up just going back to what I did originally in 2020 and just kind of building it myself and being a one-man band and just try to carve my own path through this thing and see if I could provide some value to the community. And so that shifted from being just going into casting full-time and really just wanting to be Mitch Leslie. I wanted to be Uber so bad, to where I'm now kind of finding my own niche and creating my own community. And this 2024 was a very transitional year for me, but you know what? I'm very much looking forward to this next year. Being a part of Amplify is such a huge step. It's such a big part of that. But yeah, there you go. I told y'all I could ramble on for a while about this.
I don't mind this one bit. I love hearing the stories because it takes me back to when I was really into Overwatch and just how good the community was and how some of the community members still are. They're still so passionate. It's just I love it. I love hearing it. I like hearing that story. I love hearing these kinds of stories.
It's good. It's good. I just will rewatch the orchestral performance from 2024 Stockholm and just seeing everybody. Just that music, just hits the feels, and you're just like, yes, let's go, let's go.
We need more orchestra music.
That was so amazing. God, that was so amazing.
As much as everybody likes all the other genres and whatnot, there's just something special about orchestra, strings and horns.
Epic orchestra music for any kind of esport thing.
It hits the soul.
It does.
What do you think? I listen to that kind of music before we do events for iRacing. I will actually get into a zone where I'm just listening to hype orchestral music that's on loop. That gets me I am the main character for this race. I am him.
Wait, what? You got some EDM going in there? Nah, man, it's Bach.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Exactly.
Steve Jablonski, Hans Zimmer, George Williams. Man, Hans Zimmer though. Oh, everything he writes that is on fire. It is just.
It's some of the best songwriting. Some of the best compositional songwriting you will find in classical music and orchestra music.
Oh,
in movies, especially most of the biggest movies we know, genre, Star Wars, Indiana Jones. Those are all John Williams.
Of course.
Harry Potter's John Williams too. Yeah.
He's just one of Hans Zimmer did the Rush movie as well. So
they've done
Rush.
So many different.
I have a Rush song on my playlist. Lost. It's Lost, but One. It's the last song when they're at Fuji and then they look at each other and it's raining and they give themselves a nod. It's that music.
Who did
the green light?
Who did Lord of the Rings? Didn't Hans Zimmer do
that?
Is that Hans Zimmer?
I think it's Hans Zimmer.
Is it? Hold on, I'm gonna double check because it's bugging me now.
Epic soundtracks ever made. Period.
Yeah, honestly,
I want to say it's. I want to say it's Hans Zimmer.
He did.
It is Howard Shore.
Oh, it's Howard Shore. Yeah.
Did he also do the Lord of the Rings series on Amazon Prime?
Rings of Power? Underrated, by the way. I'm sorry. I know that show gets lots of hate.
No, he did
the Hobbit show. I love that show.
I love that show. I can't wait for season 3.
Hobbit trilogy.
He did the Hobbit. Yeah. If he did Lord of the Rings, he did Hobbit as well.
Yeah, I wonder who did the Amazon Prime special or the series. Because it was also done really well.
Another one is the
Bear McCreary. Did Rings of Power. He's doing the sound. He's doing that for Rings of Power.
It's also very good.
Yes.
The composer that did the original Game of Thrones is also extremely well known. I didn't know it, but a buddy of mine was like, "Oh yeah, that guy's extremely one of the best in the world before Game of Thrones."
Yes.
Yeah, and it's that music in that is also just insanely good. Even just past the intro, but all the music they used throughout the seasons and for the show like talk about stuff that'll hit you in the feels, and it just kind of like, I mean, just pulls at you or get you hyped. Like all of it, like the music in that show is so good.
Steve Jablonski did the Michael Bay verse Transformers, and not many people know this, but he also did the soundtrack for the Gears of War franchise.
Rad. Also amazing.
I miss, like, this is kind of a tangent on our conversation, but I miss orchestra music in gaming, especially like Overwatch. Please bring it back, kind of thing. Like the game that got me so sucked in because of, like, not only because of the gameplay and the storyline, but also because of the music. Halo, for instance.
Oh yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
There was no way. Like, as soon as you heard the songs and everything else, and the choir starting to sing, you're like, "All right, I'm Master Chief now. I'm ready. Let's do this," kind of thing.
It's probably the best gaming soundtrack ever made.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
I agree.
there's some. I know. I've got a buddy, like an old NES buddy, who'd probably argue with me on that one. I can already hear him arguing with me in the background, and it's Kid Icarus or something. But
with an 8-bit sound.
Yeah. No, it'd be one of the remakes. But seriously though, Halo probably has the best game soundtrack. One of the best soundtracks. I mean, just of anything in the creative medium of all time. It's so iconic and so immediate. Like, as soon as you hear those opening notes, you're like, yeah, that's Halo. And then for most of us, it'll send a chill down your arm immediately.
Yes.
It's so
the one Halo song, I think it's from Halo 3. It's at towards I guess the end of the game. It's one, and I actually have it saved. And every time I listen to it, I get chills. It's called Remember. It's like Remember.
Oh yeah.
nice.
Oh my gosh, that is like the most sad.
It's like at the end of Halo 3, I think.
Hopeful and beautiful song I've ever heard. No words. It's just so beautiful.
Our music, man. Universal language.
No, I love that orchestral
language
stuff.
of the heart. It's one of my favorite quotes of all time. Music is the language of the heart.
Speaking of older video games, obviously you didn't just play Overwatch, and you didn't just come from Overwatch.
No, I'm an old man, dude.
Yeah. I think you're in the same club as all of us here. Like, we're all up there in age now.
I'm in unk status. We're good.
Yeah, same. Oh, they called me the T3 uncle. Like, he called me T3 grandpa earlier. All right, so I mean, that's.
I'm the Amplify.
Okay. I embrace it. Oh, I ain't worried about it. I embrace it.
I'm the same way.
I've been playing video games for longer than most of the people I cast have been alive. 100%. 100%.
Way to make me feel old, because I'm seeing all these new players getting into these new games. I'm like, God, how many games have I played before they were even a thought?
I've probably played online shooters since most of the people I cast were born, since before they were born.
God, Lord.
I started playing SOCOM in 2001. Like, it was the first multiplayer shooter, like, to hit console. It wasn't the first one on PC, but it was such a new thing that it came with a headset, because headsets weren't on the market.
I forgot that was the first one for console.
With that headset. Yeah. There were no headsets. You had,
what console was this?
PlayStation 2.
Oh my God.
The original SOCOM.
God.
Oh, and talk about fucking lethal. Counter-Strike has got nothing on bullet lethality from SOCOM. That game was brutal.
I was gonna say the last old console, which no one heard of this game, but it was actually really good, was called Conduit, produced and made by Sega for the Wii. It was actually a really good online shooter. It is the most slept-on game ever.
Right. I mean, that happened on the Wii. There were a couple of slept-on games on the Wii.
Conduit was a great first-person shooter, and every time I was like, does anyone remember Conduit? They're like, what's that? I'm like, you haven't played Conduit? I was so obsessed with that game. One of some of my usernames, early usernames, were Conduit something, because I loved the game that much.
But to kind of circle back to your original point, because I've grown up with video games, I mean, I watched them develop and mature with me. And I mean, holy hell, I wish there was esports when I was good. When I was real good, I wish there was esports, you know. So it's one of the big motivators to be a part of this community. And even being an old man, I feel blessed that I'm still welcomed, and you know, it's an honor to kind of to get to tell a lot of the younger generation stories. But it also gives me, honestly, I think it gives me an appreciation as well. Like that was one of the reasons that made Overwatch so appealing. I stand by and still stand by that Call of Duty ruined shooters. Call of Duty set shooters back by 10 years. I stand by it. I stand by it. And it was to where every game copied their control scheme, copied what they did, and it became such a desaturated landscape of nothing but military shooters. That's why we saw what we saw by 2015. That's why there was nothing else out there. By the time Overwatch launches a year later, it was the first thing to hit the market that wasn't a guy in a military suit holding an M4. Like, it was... So then looking back, I saw some appreciation for that. You know, it's like, hey, there we go. I played TF2. Let's go. Let's get back into this.
Man, speaking of
Crisis
TF2,
walked out to Call of Duty. Crisis was a much better game. Come on now.
Oh, I agree. I'm so
Seriously,
sad.
dude. Crisis was one of the best shooters ever made.
Crisis was the benchmark for some people's computers back in its heyday.
But that's all it's known for. And it wasn't just like it was the benchmark. It's almost still like I'm pretty sure there's still a can you run Crisis at full cranked?
Yeah. It was just like they gave it like, bro, I can't even play Crisis. My computer can't handle it.
But that's all it became known for. Genuinely one of the best well-made shooters in the history of gaming. Without question, as far as just how tight it was in the mechanics. It got lost. Call of Duty tried to rip it off and basically did, and it got lost to time. And Call of Duty made whether Future Warfare or whatever, where they incorporated slide and ledge grabbing, sliding, all that stuff was Crisis. Crisis originated all that.
Yeah.
I thought Titanfall was a breath of fresh air.
Titanfall was very original, and it was everybody I think was rightfully mad that we got Apex Legends instead of Titanfall 3.
Yeah, the story for Titanfall 2 was phenomenal, but the multiplayer was so damn good.
What am I mean, he's an old man like me too, and he was top 50 in the world in Titanfall 2 because he got that whatever that ledge jumping sliding shit down where you could just fly all over the map like you were Lucio.
Yep. Never even have to touch the ground anymore.
Yeah,
you're literally just Lucio.
Yeah.
So what was your first gaming system, I guess? Because you come from console. Did you grow up as a kid playing video games or?
Yeah. I mean, God, that's a long story.
I think for most of us it is now.
Yeah, I will try to truncate it. I mean, my dad had an Atari. Like I remember playing like a Tasmanian Devil game. I remember playing Space Invaders, like the little joy. I mean, I was a tiny toddler. Like, but I remember the little joystick with the red button on top, and and then it was my 6th birthday. I think I got an NES, like the original NES.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, dude. I'm old. I'm an '80s baby. I'm an early '80s baby.
I came in after you with the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, so I watched it all. Like I played Mike Tyson's Punch Out when it was popular. You know, like I played RC Plurium when it was popular. I got Street Fighter 2 on launch day. You know, like, yeah. And I've always been a fan. I went to PC for a while. I played Warcraft. I was huge into Warcraft 2. I was huge in Diablo 2 there for a long time. Never got into WoW, but like my Blizzard account is actually extremely old. Like my actual, like I had my old school Blizzard account was from Warcraft 2. Yeah. Well, Warcraft 2. Warcraft 2.
He's like, hold on. Was I born yet? Well, yeah, you're born yet, but
which Warcraft 2 invented a lot of games that came after. All the expansions and the mods that people made for Warcraft 2 were insane. It invented so many genres. It invented like literal genres of games. The other big one in my history was Myth Soulblighter.
Oh my gosh, I don't hear about that game that often, but I know what you're talking about.
It's one of the most important games in gaming history.
Yeah.
And it was my first experience with an online multiplayer. Like I played Diablo where it was like you had a trading system and stuff. But with Warcraft, I didn't play multiplayer with it. I just like enjoyed going through the campaigns and stuff with it and playing all the different races and stuff. Because the cinematics were insane. The cinematics for that game were so good. But original Myth Soulblighter was the first game I played multiplayer wise, and it was like a 3D top down. And this was late 90s, right? Like I said, SOCOM was the first one I played on console, but Myth was the first multiplayer game I played, period. So what I'm leading up to here is, do you know who made Myth Soulblighter?
No.
Bungie. It's Bungie's game before Halo.
You're right. Oh my gosh.
He's right. I'm looking at it.
As soon as he said that, I'm remembering the website page which had all their list of games, and I was like, oh, that's right, that is on their list.
It's Bungie's game before Halo. And I was ranked like number 2 in the world in this game, by the way. It set all of the competitive game types we now know.
Yep.
Myth Soulblighter invented and created and implemented almost every game type you see in every fucking video game ever made. They all came from Myth Soul, because Halo did it right after. Yep. Because all of those game types were immediately just straight into Halo. Same names, everything. Like it was all the same. It was the same game types. Were all just ported into Halo, and everybody copied them. And that was so every first person shooter from after, they just branched out like a tree. Yep. Myth 2 invented all of the game types we now know and put them into a multiplayer shooter arena, like crafted them, like did the story play for them. They didn't invent King of the Hill. People have been playing King of the Hill with, IRL for many, many decades, but they crafted the screenplay to put it into a video game form.
So you've played with Myth, you played it. Was it PC before? I can't remember at that time.
No, that was my PC face.
That was your PC.
Yeah. Because I was in PC for a while and then went off to college and was back to console because I couldn't take my computer with me. Or like I took it with me and it broke or something. I mean, like once I got into college, like it was hard. I didn't game as much in college. I was an animation student, man. I was
I think that's most of our stories. I remember that. That was my story. College, I took a break from gaming and esports in general. Like I cold turkey stopped playing video games.
Yeah, I didn't. I started ramping up into Overwatch. I was playing nothing but Overwatch when I was in college.
And then he discovered Amplify.
Yeah.
well, first I discovered a team called Against the Grain, ATG.
Oh, I forgot about them.
I was with them, and the owner of that team, his name was Ryko. His Discord handle was Ryko, and he was nasty. Like nasty as he was he was just not a nice person to play for. Period. I forget how I stumbled across Amplify. I think it was because I was trying to leave that team because it was a mess. The whole thing was a mess, and it was early grassroots for him too. And then I think I was on an Overwatch, like I forget the website. They had like a list of teams that were looking to recruit.
Sure.
I think I found you through that.
I don't remember posting on a website, but maybe that happened.
It was like a very open post. It was like interested in like esports and like grassroots movement, blah blah blah. And I was like, let me give it a shot. And I made my way to your Discord and made my way onto the team as the lowest competitive rank tank.
No, you weren't.
But yes,
Goldbox had you beat. Goldbox had you beat because it was gold rank.
Oh yeah, that's right. Goldbox. I love Goldbox. That's right. Yeah, that's right. Goldbox. He was gold, but then he surpassed me.
I've been gold for 8 years. All right, you leave us alone.
I know. At this point, I'm bronze cotton candy. Like I'm cotton candy. As soon as my rank hits water, like a raccoon, when they take the cotton candy and they have to dip in water, it disappears. So that's my rank.
Now, Goldbox was a great off tank to play with, though. Despite him being in gold, he was a really good off tank.
So this is where our grassroots was at. With that first roster, they were like on average maybe a diamond rank team.
I was like plat. I peaked at diamond, and then I was just plat, hard stuck plat.
Our highest ranked player was like low GM, maybe high masters. And then we had our lowest rank as a gold player. But we would scrim at basically high masters, low GM because they were playing at that level.
Damn.
As a team. This roster was something else because every day we had a scrim. They made me schedule scrims every day. Not only that, they were VODing before and after scrims. And I'm like, dude, you guys aren't even not even like at the time Apex level, basically. But you guys are doing the work.
No, we were. It was a whole regimen. I think the coach you had in place at the time made us VOD before and after every single scrim.
Well, you guys did it on your own without the coach too.
Well, we did that sometimes on our own, but like when the coach was involved, he would be like, "All right, we're VODing now, and we're going to VOD now, and then we're going to talk about it for like hours." It was hours.
Gotta love grassroots.
Gotta love it.
Yeah, there was a lot of fun memories, and I think we brought in. I met someone online who was top 500 tank, and he took me under his wing. I think he came in as like a potential. I don't know. You've talked to him before when early on. This was like when we were in like open season. This was before I went to the Philadelphia Fusion. What, dude?
Like it's hunting season over here.
Hunting season, yes, open season. But it was before I went and did the Philly Fusion University tryouts in Philly, the showcase.
Oh, I don't remember.
He took me under his wing. It was competitive season 8, season 7, season 8. He took me under his wing, and he was a main tank, top 500. He played with Siegel, XQC. He's played with a lot of these players, and he's like, I see some potential in you. Let me kind of show you how to play main tank a little better with Reinhardt. I think season 7, I was 700th in the world with Reinhardt in season 7, and I'm only a plat player because of him. And because of him, when I went to the Philadelphia or the Fusion University tryouts or the showcase in Philadelphia for that event, I made it to main stage and was a runner-up to being selected as the player that they were going to add to the team from Philadelphia. But I think Zerg was playing that match, and apparently, dude, Elk was amazing shot caller. I punished Zerg with Winston so bad that their prodigy player could not play the game on main stage. And then at the end, I didn't get picked, and I was really upset. And the guy who took me under his wing was like, I envy you. He called me on Discord. He's like, I envy you. He was like, you got to somewhere. He's like, you worked to get here, and I envy that. Like, I'm so proud of you, even though you didn't make it. After that, though, for me, it was my downhill trajectory. I was just so sad.
What kind of tournaments did y'all play in back then? Like, was Open Division a thing at that point, or
okay? Yep. We played the first season of Open Division. That's basically when we got started,
right?
And then we used to do the weeklies with, oh my gosh, what's his name? I could see it. I forget. And those were all casted weeklies and such. I'm gonna remember it, or I'll know it once I see it, because I'm pretty certain I'm still in that server, or I could be wrong. But yeah,
weeklies were going on back then. I don't know. That's probably before my time.
Wait, weeklies back in like what, season 1 of Open Division?
Yeah, that was
there was weeklies
like 2017. Yeah, I mean that was definitely before I was casting.
Yeah, I don't think we ever competed in any ELO Hell stuff.
Right. I was doing weekly scrims when I was with Against the Grain before Amplify too. We were doing weekly scrims as well.
Well, I mean, Get Good got really big there for a while.
It did.
When Jane was running Get Good, I mean, it was getting 5,000-6,000 viewers.
Yeah,
it got real big there for a while.
I think we did Hall of Champions once.
Yeah, Trial of Champions. I think
Trials. Yeah.
I think it was Trial of Champions. I cast it once.
There was two different ones, right? Because there was one that was an invite only, and that was the one we got. Was invite only.
I think there were 2 different ones, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, I think it was all part of Star League, right? Is that, if I remember that correctly?
That I don't remember. I don't remember. I remember I got to cast some of the Get Good, because that's where I got my break, was getting into ELO Hell.
Yeah,
and that was like Necra was my first talent director. Necra was talent director for ELO Hell when I joined. Was an Overwatch League caster, Necra.
ELO Hell.
So I'm going to ask you this, because of we've been talking about gaming and casting and such, and you did mention about getting into film work. What led you get into filming and such, or animation filming?
Getting into game development.
Really?
That was yeah. The whole goal was getting game development. That was the goal from day one. That was
damn.
I knew I wanted to.
So your animation background is not necessarily it's not. What is it? It's not regular film work animation, or cartoon, I should say, or TD work.
3D
work.
So
3D,
I was, yeah. So if there's any animation nerds out there, I was fluent in both Maya and XSI, which were used in all the film studios. Yeah, I mean, unless you're Pixar and they use their own proprietary stuff. I'll spit that word out of it.
Alien software, yeah.
But so what I did, I mean, I was a 3D character animator. So I was particularly good with dialogue. I was particularly good with dialogue and facial animations, and I could almost read lips. I did so many freaking lip syncs and understand mouth sounds and all that stuff that I can almost read lips at this point. So that was really, and I love doing action animation and that kind of stuff, but I was actually really good at dialogue. There's a lot more dialogue stuff out there than what we did. And that was when I worked for kind of a house that did a little bit of everything. So when I actually got to do animation, that was the good times. Otherwise, it was just doing like 3D graphics for advertising, and that was soul sucking. So,
yeah, I can understand when it comes to advertising.
Like the big goal was to like get it into Valve. That would have been Valve when Valve was still making games. They were considered the best studio to work for. When Rockstar is literally facing lawsuits for how they're treating their employees, Valve was known as the highest paying, most well-respected studio in the world.
Damn.
And so that was my animation supervisor, had a really good buddy that worked at Valve. So my animation soup that I worked for several years, one of his good friends did the animation of the engineer sitting around talking to his turrets.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I've got one guy did that. One guy did that animation, did that whole thing. And all those TF2 animations were just character tests. They were never meant to even really see the light. They were character tests because they were in-game models. And so they were just trying to see what they could get away with and how they could break the characters and that kind of stuff.
That's awesome.
They were literally just character tests. But yeah.
And I watched all of those.
I've watched them hundreds of times.
Love them.
I can almost like, you just got to start one and I can pretty much quote it verbatim. You just got to get it going for me. And I can pretty much just quote you the whole rest of the video. I've watched them the animation's so good. Like Pixar level good. You're talking, these are animators who turned down Pixar. They're like, no, I don't want to go be one of the 260 people at Pixar. I'm going to go be one of this small group at Valve and make six figures. Where everybody else is making $5,000 a year and working 80-hour weeks, right?
I would have taken Valve if it was given the option as an animator. I would have taken Valve at the time.
Valve was the place to be. The Valve was the place to be.
So cool.
So that was the goal. So even starting to get into it, it was just to make video games. As I got more and more and learned what I could do, the idea was to get into a studio, either doing cinematics or something like that. Like I'm jealous. Do you ever watch? What's the Corridor Crew? You ever watch Corridor Crew? They basically analyze visual effects and stunt work and animation. It's an amazing channel.
I have not watched that yet. Okay, I'm gonna have to check it out.
Yeah, and one of the animators that they reviewed is basically a guy who specializes in doing reloads. The guy has made an entire career out of perfecting what to do with your hands and how to do hands and to reload guns and stuff. And so they're looking at these videos and it's like, wait, that's all CG. Like and they're like, wait, what? Like, no, what do you mean that's all CG? Like, what part? The gun? Like, no, the whole thing. Like the guy's hands, it's all CG. And so this guy's made a career over, this is what you see in a video game is you reloading a fucking gun. And he's literally one of the lead animators for not Treyarch, but with the Activision side that does Call of Duty.
Oh yeah.
So he has a long time standing job as a supervisor doing exactly that.
Because that's basically the main title they make is a shooter game, first person.
Yeah, and so that's how much of the animations is just you like reloading the guns. And so like
that's the main animation you see playing it. All you see is the hands.
Yeah, and the reloads and the hitting the bolts and popping the clip, all that stuff.
That's so cool though.
So like that's what I wanted to do. That was the whole original plan. I mean, I've always been a storyteller. And I mean, games was really like my thing. Everybody else wanted to go work at Pixar. I was like, I want to get into the gaming universe. It just didn't quite pan out. I walked into Gearbox where they're like, we do all this online. I'm like, yeah, I'm a face-to-face kind of person. And just walked into their office like, hi, here's my reel. You should hire me. Ended up on like their executive elevator with one of the top brass from Gearbox. Accidentally walk onto their executive elevator. Just because, like, so, you follow somebody onto an elevator, just like as you do. Yeah, and not realizing this is the one that required, like, their super secret key pass. And, it's one of the top brass from Gearbox Software in his suit. And I start literally giving an elevator pitch. Literally happened. And eventually the guy's like, "Oh, well, good luck." That was that. I did not get the job, needless to say. Unfortunately, we were in massive recession mode. Not to age myself any more than I already have on this podcast, but that was 2009, 2010, and no one was hiring. No one.
Oh man,
God, I was in high school. My God.
I graduated high school in 2008. So
I graduated college in 2006.
Oh my God. I didn't graduate high school until 2011. Oh my God.
Told you I'm old.
Hey,
I'm the youngest.
Congratulations.
The youngest unk of the group. Let's go.
There you go. Yeah.
It's funny because like we talk about this in esports, especially like when you're not competing or playing anymore and you're doing like management or casting, for instance. We're now like the oldest people in esports, basically.
Yeah.
Like everybody else is like a kid or not even born when we started most of this stuff.
It can be intimidating.
I walked uphill school both ways when I started.
I mean, past that, past the, my first computer was basically a hamster and an abacus, like that. Past that, there is a real concern of, I hope people accept me. Like, and that I hope that this much younger fan base we can identify with each other and we can find that common ground. I mean, it's a genuine concern, and it's probably more than it should be. But I mean, I guess I don't know. That's one of those things where I hope people don't hold it against me. Like, I'm not ashamed of how old I am, but don't hold it against me, damn it.
No, I think what a lot of young people in esports should be like us unks that have been in the esports world for a while. There's not a lot of good young, I guess you could say, role models. Sure. That they can look up to and be like, he's always been like a good one. Like, I like him. I respect what he does, but it's just like there's a lot of young people that are like, yeah, quick money, come do this and we'll win tournaments and give you money. There's no like steady, level-headed.
Right.
There's not enough of that maturity for them to be like, you know what? I actually kind of like to follow him. So I don't think you should worry. I don't think any of us should worry about age in esports. I feel like there has to be people in it to set that example for the younger generation coming into esports.
Absolutely.
Versus it's not just this run and gun, wild, loose hanging. Yeah, it's just.
Well, and that just comes with time, right? Like that kind of figuring out that experience and figuring out balance and those kind of things. I mean, it just comes with time. Like
in casting, have you experienced any of that yourself? I don't know a lot. Like I guess like the age gap or like sometimes some of the rubbing with the aging.
Now,
I feel like it's kind of like it might be changing because like if you look at like even like Overwatch League or like not Overwatch League now, but top OWCS, like the pro ranks casters, basically, the people that do this full time, they're getting up there in age as well. But
it's because
they're still the popular.
They're grandfathered in, no pun intended. But
at this point, some of them might be.
I wear my age as a badge of honor.
I try. I mean, damn it. Like, I don't know. There's a couple of different things I have to say about that. But back to the original point, they were in their 20s when they got those jobs, right? Like that's, when Uber and Mr. X started casting Overwatch, they were in their 20s and kind of part of that crew. Uber almost didn't make it in. That's a different story altogether. But a lot of that was Monty and Doa bringing over friends and people they knew from the league crowd and just kind of that, because they were the first ones brought in.
They came from StarCraft, didn't they, though?
No, it's League. I could have sworn they were League cast. I'm pretty confident they were League cast. Were they StarCraft? Maybe it was StarCraft.
I swear they had done StarCraft before, too, but I could be wrong.
I'm fairly confident they were League casters before.
Okay.
But I could be. It's been a while since I've looked up this stuff. I could be getting wires crossed. It wouldn't be the first time.
At this point.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the first.
And everybody's crossing over with different esports. So.
But exactly, especially now. But point being, a lot of the casters that we still have are just because we haven't changed the guard over in so long.
Yeah. I don't see that as necessarily a bad thing either, because you do need some like longevity experience on there. A good balance of it, I would say.
I think it's good for how many casters they have. I wouldn't want to get rid of anybody that we currently have to try fresh blood just for the sake of trying fresh blood. Like that's, I saw ZP, who was, an old school, contenders caster, kind of put this out on Twitter, and where it was like, you want to give people a chance, but just putting fresh blood in there for the sake of it being fresh blood is not good.
Yeah.
You need the best people for the job, period.
Right.
Like, not to just flip people over for the sake of. Now, to open up more job opportunities and provide more casting opportunities and bring in new people to fill those slots, there, I think, could be room for conversation there. But if this is their budget, they're going to have forecasters. Bring the best forecasters we've got in Overwatch, period.
Have you done casting outside of Overwatch, or?
I've done a little bit of Rocket League. But that's about it.
Nice.
I did it. I did it on for high school and collegiate for a number of years. I've just recently kind of like 2024, really fall of 2024 is when I stopped doing Rocket League. And it was just trying to diversify, but it was to make me a better Overwatch caster. I cast Rocket League to make me a better Overwatch caster. Period.
Yep. I'm going to pivot really fast to OWCS this coming year.
Do it.
What are you most excited about when it comes to, because you're obviously going to be part of like co-streaming a lot of this with Face It League happening and OWCS happening at the same time. Tell us what you're most excited about going into 2025 and some of the seasons and with some of the teams and players that are coming out of OWCS.
Honestly, this new system's insane. And Amplify is a shining example. Like, this is the announcement they released today. Like, they could have really just made that about y'all. Like, they didn't need to make up some fictional character to be like, we're going to go fight for the top. They literally could have made that promo about your squad. To me, that ability to, and really what that promo is embracing of just anybody can form a group, form a team, come together, and there's a clear path. We have never had this in Overwatch esports before. It was heavily gatekept by a franchise system, which I think there was benefit to. Obviously, the business model was the fallacy in that, not necessarily the franchising.
Yep.
There wasn't guaranteed money, and there wasn't a good business model to incentivize that with a heavy buy. All of that was the problem, not the franchising. Those are separate issues, in my opinion. Anyway, I digress.
And not regionalizing it, I think, as well.
Right. But having this completely open system is a first for us, and I think it's amazing. I don't know. It just opens the door for a beautiful little network, and it ends up being it's up to us. It's up to us as the players. It's up to us as the co-streamers of the teams to kind of form the future of our esport. And that it's the personification of the meme of just, being moisturized, happy, and in my lane. Like, that's kind of where Overwatch needs to find. Like, I feel like we're kind of aiming and kind of starting to find that place where it's outside. We've kind of grown outside of we're trying to be the NFL, or we're trying to even be League of Legends or a giant thing. We're trying to have this whatever model of home games, visitor games, and went through a lot of identity crisis, it felt like, for the league throughout its history. And I think where we're coming to now in 2025, it's actually given us the ability to carve out our own path in esports, to find our lane and really have this coherent, amazing system built within it that anybody can rise up. And there's no, God, you remember how much complaining there was about buying of slots, and just being like, there was so much of this crap and red tape that went into getting a slot in trials or getting a slot in contenders to get your name noticed so that you might be able to get your eyes in front of a scout to get picked up. We had an entire Korean team come and play on NA servers just to get noticed. I cast them. I got to interview Muse. It was an amazing opportunity as an NA trials caster to get to cast that squad. Was it Vigi was on that team too? Like, that's Vigilante was on that team too. Like, it was but it was so convoluted, and we're still not perfect. Obviously, it'd be nicer if now the Korean region, their tier 2 structure needs a little bolstering and kind of got left by the wayside, which is not good. But for for the most part, like, so I'm not saying that we're in a perfect place, but where we actually have a full-on path from me and my friends can be just playing on Xbox and put a team together and actually grind up and make it into OWCS. That is such a unique and amazing thing. And I think it's going to pave the way for a bright future here. Like, it's
what it reminds me of, the way you're describing it, the good old MLG days when you had a bunch of Call of Duty teams like TK, Optic Phase, all of them, where they were just a group of people that got together to make these teams and were able just to work their way up to a big series until the CDL happened and forced them to pay $20 million for a seat. And then all of those small teams just gone.
And they do end up, CDL does end up giving back all of that money. But
it was, I guess it was the red tape of finding that sponsor that would fund
the damage
that.
had been done, which was, the damage had already been done. Although small teams were already crushed. Like, the damage had already been done. And I think that's super exciting to me. We're in a good place for this to bloom into something really special.
That's what it sounds like. It sounds like it's like Overwatch kissed a lot of frogs, and now it's finally found its prince. It finally found the prince.
I'm cautiously optimistic, but like the narratives that can come from this, and we're already seeing it. I mean, that's the Amplify story is insane. Like, it's so good. And it's because of that. And the kind of narratives that are going to come from this season, I think, are going to be really, really cool. And unlike anything we've seen in Overwatch esports before.
Yeah. I mean, and that's
soon to be iRacing. Soon to be iRacing, Ripple. We're going to take over that too. The Amplify story.
Do it.
It's coming there too.
We're about to, but yeah, no, like, so a lot of this also reminds me, like, it brings it back to me for, like, as you mentioned, MLG days with Halo, because I competed through that. I competed through Counter-Strike as well, and where Counter-Strike had that full-on ladder system. Like, even during, like, I go this far back, 90s, Cal CPL as a competitor, and that's how it was done. You had to go through the Cyber Athletic League or Amateur League to get to the Cyber Professional League, and you had to run through those whole ranks, which eventually became ESL. I think this is what we were all kind of hoping, where it was that open system where it allows programs like Amplify to be able to move up. And I'm trying not to sound biased here when it comes to Amplify, but yeah, it was a big shock. And I mean, even for me, myself, it was a shock. Like, as soon as that happened, I ran through the house screaming. I jumped on Discord on my phone to basically scream at them at the same time. Because, like, during that match, I'm thinking, oh, you know what? Like, it's just our luck, Amplify. Like, we're going to lose this match and we're not going to qualify through, on the just right close to the finish line right there.
Sure.
But no, like, the opportunity was there. The players made the best of their opportunity and were able to cross that finish line. And because of the system that OWCS has right now, we're one of those stories, like almost Cinderella stories. I'm not going to say if we really are Cinderella story or not. But, like, it just feels like it's one of those build-up Cinderella stories where it's like a team that should not be there was able to make it in, No,
it's a Cinderella story. I can tell you, being one of the alumni, being one of the alumni from one of the first Overwatch teams you've ever had, it's a Cinderella story. Because
leave it to NA to do that too.
So the as an alumni of the very first Overwatch team, I said this to my coworker, and it's a line from I'm not a fan of a lot of the new Disney Star Wars shows of Andor, but there is a line, a really beautiful monologue, and there was a quote from that monologue. This all started with the first team, right? This was your dream. We're gonna make it, we're gonna be that team, we're gonna make it. We created a sunset that the team one never got to see. But now that I came back, I actually got to see it. Yeah. I got to see the sunrise that he's been fighting for years.
You walk so phone can run. That's what you're telling me. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Gap. You play tank. Excuse me. You walk so Gap could run. That's
I'm so proud. Back in my day, it was Pirate Ship, which actually didn't we do something with that?
Oh yeah, it's the roster after you we invented pirate ship. So a lot of people don't realize this. We created pirate ship. That
Y'all
comp
created pirate ship. Nice.
and it was created on it's that weekly that I'm trying to remember. I think it was the person that ran it was Storm. Used to run weeklies out of his server. We had started it and created the pirate ship comp then.
Was it on Junkertown? Was the original on Junkertown?
Okay. Yes, it's exactly where we
did
it.
It was known for, right? That's what it was known. Junkertown was known as the pirate ship map there for a while.
I'm trying to remember. I think it was Plausible or Frumple. So we had both of them as coaches on our roster at that time.
You had Plausible as a coach?
Yeah,
I think Frumple
was.
That's amazing.
They were casting Plausible cast at the same time. Yeah, maybe it was Frumple came up with the idea. Frumple came up with some crazy.
The name Frumple
ideas.
sounds very familiar.
Yeah, he created that one day with them. I think it was during that weekly. It wasn't even a scrim. It worked, and we're like, okay, let's try this during a scrim and continue on. And from then, like contenders, like we scrimmed contenders, some contender teams as well, or like lower tier 2 teams.
Sure.
And they caught on to what we were doing, and it was like, yeah.
It was kind of like the Philly special.
Yeah,
but they made the pirate ship.
It was kind of a proud moment for us at that point.
And that's, I mean, funny you bring that up though, but that's what makes the tree that we're talking about so important. Like that, excuse me, whoa, frog in my throat. But that's what makes like having a robust T2 and T3 system. That is part of it. It's not just about developing talent and bringing up the future professional players. It's also about developing the metas and getting to kind of toy around with the game and have a bit more fun with it in that way. I mean, so many comps came out of T2 and T3.
Yep.
I mean, like Goats was a T2 comp. Slambulance was a T2 comp. Like that's
Slambulance.
So many comps came out of T2 and T3, and it was because you had the ability. I mean, the Clockwork Vendetta comp.
Oh, like, that one too.
We actually saw the May Torb comp played in Owl. It was just like on Dorado, where like they were using the May comp stall or whatever on Dorado, but we actually saw the May Torb come out once or whatever, and it was the Clockwork Vendetta comp. Like,
who played it? Was it London or I forget?
I don't remember. I honestly don't remember. It was probably London. That sounds like a very London thing to do. That are like Glads. Glads would do some fun shit. But
yeah, exactly.
That's just another reason we need to make sure we maintain a solid, robust T2, T3 scene. Right there.
With bans implemented in Overwatch, not only like map picks, but hero bans, and that being controlled per a map versus like what we've seen before, where like we had a certain set of heroes that are banned throughout the week.
Right.
Do you think that has helped shake up the meta a little bit? Are we expecting it to shake up that meta? Maybe.
I mean, I think everybody's kind of hoping it will, and even if it doesn't, so the general consensus that I've heard and that I agree with is that if a hero is so powerful that you can kind of take out some of the parts around it, but that hero is still just going to be playable. Right now, it is Hazard. Hazard is still, you can take the supports out around it. You can take Sojourn out from the DPS line. People are still going to play Hazard. They're just going to replace the Sojourn, replace the Genji, or replace the Curie or whatever. We've seen it. But ideally, we're at a balanced spot to where if you remove one of those heroes, then it allows teams to kind of play around with compositions more. And so if you take the Curie out, suddenly the Hazard meta ideally isn't the most prolific meta, and suddenly the other things are playable. You can play Brawl, you can play Dive or whatever. So I think there is the potential for that to happen, but the balance has to coincide. The balance has to be good enough for it to matter. Otherwise, you're still now. There are exceptions, like the Amplify Supernova match is a huge exception, and I think this is to kind of the follow up would be I would want to talk to players about this. So we can say what we want from a spectator point of view. But honestly, I wanted to ask players that question. Do players feel like it's actually making a difference on what they're choosing? Are they scared of particular bans? And I'm sure that's going to vary from team to team. I mean, some pretty drastically, I'd imagine. But I think they're the ones that are really going to be able to give us the read on that more so than us from outside looking in.
I know from the viewer perspective, it's fun. And
sure.
It makes it kind of tense. Like, okay, what are they going to do now? We're trying to like think what they're thinking about in their mind.
Right.
So I from a viewer's perspective, it feels like it's more exciting to me.
It makes it more entertaining with bands now.
Yeah.
It can and it can't. There's a huge devil's advocate to that, and that is once you start lowering the quality of play to a point, it's not as entertaining. It gets to a toilet bowl, and your viewers can tell. And that's
but a viewer's going to complain if both teams are playing the same comps into each other over and over and over.
If they go on for too long, agreed. But my point is that you do still need to maintain a certain level of quality overall. And if teams are being forced to play stuff that they don't get to scrim or are forced to scrim 17 different comps, they're not going to be able to excel. They're not going to be able to push the level of Overwatch to where it needs to be the best in the world. To where you look at a grand finals world championship and go, yeah, that was hands down the best team in the world at that in the best composition humanly possible. Like that's so there is, and I'm not saying that's the way it should be. I think bands do add a wonderful bit of strategy. You're talking about from a viewer standpoint, from a caster standpoint, from a storyteller standpoint, it adds a wonderful bit of narrative. And I mean, absolutely. I mean,
keeps you on your toes.
And yes, and I mean, I'm going to keep going back to the Supernova Amplify match just because it's one that we kind of know the details of, and everybody's kind of starting to learn about this match at this point. But holding the Maga ban until map 5. So there was Amplify has been playing the Maga for months. I mean, since the Maga meta kept it going. It's not a unknown. Like this isn't a surprise that Amplify wants to play the Maga meta. They're extremely good at it. Extremely good at it. So Supernova hold that Maga ban until the very last map as their ace in the hole. Like thinking, okay, if we really need it, we get to map 5, we'll throw out the Maga ban and we'll just win it in the Hazard Mirror. Spoilers, it doesn't work. But that's a really cool narrative. Like that's a cool piece of storytelling. So for that alone, I'm on board. But there is a devil's advocate side. We'll see. We'll see. It hinges on more than just implement hero ban meta all of a sudden better. Viewer experience all of a sudden better. It's not quite that 1-to-1.
Any predictions for OWCS?
Ooh.
And it's any region. This could be any region you want.
Any predictions? Crazy Raccoon take it all? Like, unless, I mean...
I don't think you're wrong, but yeah.
Yeah, is there anything, like, I don't think that's a hot take.
No.
Like, with Team Falcons losing Smurf, is there anybody that can really hold up? And yeah, that didn't play a part in the World Finals we saw last year, and Falcons are your defending champs. But... are they going to be able to make it through a whole year without having that Smurf fallback? Without, and I'm a huge Dallas Fuel fan. I will argue tooth and nail that Hanman is probably the greatest off-tanker player to ever exist. Maybe the greatest tank player to ever exist. I still don't think they can get it done without Smurf. So, overall, hot take, Crazy Raccoon are the team to beat.
Do you think there's anyone that could compete with Crazy Raccoons?
Or Team Falcons? No, not really. Honestly, it's tough. It's so they very okay. For one, they have more money put into their rosters than anybody else on the planet. Make no mistake. Make no mistake. Falcons and CR have more money put into their Overwatch teams than anybody else. They very intentionally took all the best players in the world once Owl died and put together the 2 best rosters. Like straight up.
Hey, smart at that point too.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously it's the cards are stacked against the entire rest of the world in that regard.
Thoughts on Japan region?
I haven't gotten to watch very much of it. It's amazing that they get their region. I think that's awesome. I think that's very important. I would love to see, them do well. And it's what's the one big Japan team? I've seen them play a few times. The one super popular one. Nyan Gaming.
Yes, I think so. I don't know the names from that well, but I think
exactly.
I think that's one of the big ones.
I want to say it's Nyan Gaming. I've seen that have been around since like Pacific region and stuff. I actually have a huge affinity for the Pacific region. I mean, that's one of the earliest events I did was the Ace event. It was the very first like A tier event I ever cast for 2020. And that was an APAC, a Pacific event. So we're like, I got to cast Soggy, you know, like who played on Arius this past season, Soggy
nice.
Sombra, like Cat Soggy back in 2020, you know, in this event. So I have a soft spot for this region. I mean, that was my one contenders region was contenders China. Like I have a soft spot for underrepresented regions as a whole, and so I'd love to see Japan do well. And I'm glad to see they've got their own region. As far as specifics, I don't have much. I just haven't had a chance to really dive into it and see who's hot right now, to be honest.
Yeah. I only asked that because like it's funny, like I was watching Plat Chat, their podcast recently. And during like when they were doing all the rankings of the teams,
their power rankings.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they put Amplify at last. Like,
who cares?
Everyone loves a good underdog story.
Exactly.
I'm gonna hold you to it, Reinforce. Like I've seen you enough over the years in person. We've talked and such. No, but I mean, like I love Reinforce as well. They've mentioned that like Overwatch in Japan has become so popular that like if you look at even the Twitch viewership, Japan is like carrying the viewership on their own, basically. And it's just, to me, it's interesting with that region because like, yeah, it's a new region in the competitive Overwatch side of things.
Yeah, really only to us. Like Japan has been extremely fanatic about Overwatch for years, and it was I mean, shoot, one of my friends, one of my manager friends was talking about this. Like, yeah, like we need to wake up because the viewership over there is crazy. Like, we need to embrace this. And this was like 22, 23 when he's like, they need a region. Like, we need to make sure we're stoking this fire here because they're burning for Overwatch. And I'm very glad to see it follow through. But like the amount of money poured into some of those Japanese teams is insane. And those are big orgs. Like we don't know those orgs, but they are enormous orgs in the Japanese esports scene.
Yep.
I mean, it's the Team Liquid and stuff of their scene. Like it is the biggest, baddest names of their scene that they have in Overwatch.
Damn.
Yeah.
Do you think there'll be a surprise coming from Japan this year or maybe years to come?
I think there's the potential. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It depends on when you say surprise, are we saying that they're going to beat Crazy Raccoon? No. Or I mean, could they come out and have a better showing than we're anticipating them having and get an upset? Absolutely. You betcha. I think they could come out and sneak up on some people, maybe catch somebody off guard that looked past them in the bracket and didn't prepare for them correctly or something. You bet.
I just feel like because like it's a quote unquote newer region for us, basically on the competitive side of things, like I feel like they're a sleeper, almost like a sleeper cell.
Yeah.
And if we're not careful, like Japan's going to definitely, like that region is going to be out competitive compared to everybody else.
I think that's a very real possibility. Because they
have
been
like that.
They have been grinding on it hard though. Like where the NAT2 scene got a little laughable there for a moment, right? Understandable. Like our infrastructure fell apart around us. Like understandable. But the Japanese player base has continued to, from what I can see, I mean, it's not like I'm friends with EMEA or anything, but it's not a guy of insider information. But it certainly looks like to me that they have been on the grind this whole time, and they have just been working their asses off to get their region and to prove themselves to the world.
Yep.
That's in any game they get hype about, they get excited about. Any game, even card games. Some of the players in Japan are best in the world. Period. Because once they get into something that they like, they're hyper focused on it.
Right.
That is it. I'm not even in the Overwatch team, but I wouldn't be surprised if Japan gets in at some point. They'll get in.
Well,
their players are devout.
Yeah, and I'm sure you mean get in, like they'll be at the top, basically.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Give it time.
You're not only a content creator for us, but you're a content creator for Incendia in EMEA. Any other? What's coming up next for you, as far as like casting or just like content creation and such?
Oh wow, that's a big question.
Because we got OWCS this weekend.
Yeah. Well, and that's my full schedule is basically going to be streaming as much Face It League as humanly possible. With games getting announced today, it does look like the schedule has kind of stayed the same there. So I'll have a nice, Expert will be Monday and Wednesday, Master will be Tuesday and Thursday, and then OWCS will be on the weekends. I don't know. Honestly, I'm not a huge fan of co-streaming as far as stuff that's already being broadcast. I love being in the matches. It's like, wait, this isn't being broadcast anywhere else, or I can be in lobby and really kind of give my own feel to it. I enjoy that so much more than watching somebody else do the broadcast and like me talking about it. To me, it doesn't feel like they're already doing that. I feel like it's just redundant. I don't know. Some people, CX is extremely good at it. And it's probably something I need to get better at, but I love doing the original, like being in lobby and doing that stuff. It feels like I'm actually providing more value that way. And so I just enjoy it more. So I'll probably focus on that. Not to say that I won't co-stream, obviously. I mean, but I think a lot of what our attentions are kind of making sure that we get all of your matches on stream, whether they're on the main broadcast or not, right? That's kind of what being in lobby and make sure we get all of those Amplify matches up there and that story gets told. That's exciting to me. That gets me going. So that, we'll see how that develops as this year goes on. I would love to be able to grow as a storyteller and figure out kind of new ways. Like we're kind of in uncharted territory here, right? So kind of learn new ways to get behind the scenes and to tell a team story. And who knows, maybe that leads to other teams wanting to hire me on to tell their story, or maybe one of the big guys wants to throw a bag at me to help them out. That would be amazing. I don't know. I don't know what
knock.
I don't know what the future holds, but this is kind of my path right now, and I've just kind of poured myself into it. I mean, just from a combination of IRL things and opportunity here, I've just gone full bore and full time into this. So we'll see. We'll see.
Outside of NA and EU, any other regions you're going to be trying to follow or cast?
Probably not, just because that's going to take up
a lot of time. The timing,
this amount of time. Yeah, because I'm covering 3 different divisions at that point, right? I'm covering T3, T2, and T1.
Yep.
Right. So doing that for both NA and EMEA, you're already looking at 6 completely different tournament brackets that I'm trying to intimately cover. Not just like graze over, but actually know the people, know the players, know what's going on, and do my best to get involved and talk to all. I mean, I try to reach out and talk to all the managers I can, talk to all the captains I can. I do my best to really try to tell the real story and not just the surface level reading a kill feed on a match and move forward. And so it does take a lot of time, and it does take. There's gonna be a certain point where I'll start getting rosters backwards and forgetting stuff, and I already do that enough as this.
You get your work cut out, basically. Final thing, any advice you'd give to anybody wanting to become a caster, basically?
Oh, yes. Absolutely. Keep doing it. Just do it. Do it for fun. Do it for yourself. Don't be afraid to practice. Don't be afraid to take an Overwatch, OWCS VOD and just turn the sound off and just shout at it and see what you can come up with. The scene could always use more casters. I would encourage anyone to give it a try. It's a lot of fun. It's interesting. So I'm also a musician. I've played drums since I was 10 years old.
Oh, that's so
cool. Casting actually reminds me more of performing than it does gaming. It's more of you rehearse this skill and then you go into your performance and you hope you can hit the notes and it's all live. And just like playing in a band, you go play a lot of small, shitty shows. It's more just getting the reps in and getting practice at that. So you do a lot of small gigs to 10 people that are volunteer just to get those reps in. Don't be afraid to do it. Like it's a lot of fun. And there's nothing else like it. There's nothing else like casting. And especially when it's a game that you're so passionate about, like we are with Overwatch, it scratches an itch unlike anything I've ever seen on the planet. So I highly recommend giving it a try if you have even just the smallest inkling of interest.
Chris, any other questions you got for him?
No. I actually enjoyed the story. I actually really enjoyed all that.
Yeah, Chris is a very much a historian lover, so he'll sit and listen to people tell stories.
I've got stories.
Yeah, like your origin stories. I like the origin stories. I love it.
I've got stories. If there was any doubt that I'm a lifelong gamer, we can put that one to bed. We
definitely can. We can find you on Twitch. It's twitch.tv/Bullskunk. Do I have that correct?
Yeah, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, all are just Bullskunk. So yeah, please, I would love that. By all means.
Yep. We'll put all your links in the description below. But your main broadcasting is it Twitch?
On Twitch. Yes.
Twitch.
Yeah. I'll be on Twitch 5-7 days a week, depending on what's going on. So
perfect. Yeah, make sure you guys check out Bullskunk. Follow him on Twitter as well, or X as it's called now. I'm starting to get corrected for that.
Really, people are actually wait, what?
It's becoming a thing. It's no longer Twitter. It's X.
We just need to go to Blue Sky. Like the gaming community just needs to go to Blue Sky at this point. Come on, come on.
I have my reserves when it comes to that too sometimes, but
hey, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
No, yeah, it was awesome to have you.
It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure.
It's been exciting. And folks, yeah, again, our description will be in below, or all his socials will be below. Thank you for staying with us during this episode. We hope you enjoyed listening to us and Bullskunk tell his story, talk about casting and such. If you haven't already, please subscribe to Amplify's channel and hit that bell as well. So that way you get notification, turn on. And then follow all of us and subscribe to all of us in all of our social medias, which again, description below. You'll find all the links. Until then, I'm Craig, also known as Ripple.
Chris as well as Tropical Punch.
Right there. Bullskunk to my left over there. And we'll see you guys again for episode 10 next week. See you guys.
See you guys.
Bye, y'all.